What's up, guys? So today I'm going to talk to you about my solar panels and the rest of the whole unit. So we have two 100 watt Renogy panels mounted in parallel, so that is positive connected to the positive and the negative connected to the negative. So that gives me 12 volts at 200 watts. They are mounted on the AA racks. I bought these off Amazon. They're made specifically for this van. They work pretty good. What I did next, because of the size of the panels, I had to use this piece of metal here. I think it's called a superstructure, and they use it in houses and stuff. So that's what I mounted the panels on. Alright, so moving into the wiring from the solar panels, I used 10 gauge wire. I bought 25 foot of 10 gauge PV wire that is also made by Renogy to run from the solar panels into the charge controller. And what I have here is a 15 amp fuse, an inline fuse that is on the positive side of the panels. And that's important to mount close to the panels in case there's any high voltage coming to and from the panels to keep the panels safe. So next we're going to move into the van. I'm going to show you my batteries, my charge controller, and the rest of the setup. All right, moving on from the solar panels, the wires for the solar panels come in right about there. They track over, up in front of the fan, over and down through here, and I have them coming out of a hole right here behind the batteries. So this wire, the 10 gauge wire, comes into my 30 amp EP-EVAR charge controller. It's an MPP charge controller, and the reason why I bought this charge controller is number one, because of the MPPT, and it is basically a smart charge controller. It is very efficient, and it doesn't take a lot of power to run it. Moving out of the charge controller, going into the batteries, I have a 30 amp breaker right here between the charge controller and the batteries to protect the batteries and the charge controller in case there's any high amperage between the two. So coming from there, and the next thing out of the charge controller goes to my fuse box for all my 12 volt DC appliances. And this is where all my lights will be wired into, my fridge will be wired into. I have a heater that I will have to wire into here, and just some USB plugs and stuff like that. So everything is running, all the wires come out of that hole right here and run into this here. So right now I have full batteries. These are two 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries, so a total of 12 volts at 200 amp hours. I have them wired in parallel as well, so negative to negative and positive to positive. That gives me the 200 amp hours. This right here is a ground, and that ground goes down here and mounts into the frame of the van. So I basically just ground off a bunch of paint right here and bolted it into the van, which is back behind here. I'm also going to be putting in an inverter and an isolator relay, so stay tuned for that. I'll show you that. It's just a 700 watt inverter I'll put up front somewhere. I'm not there yet. I still have some more wiring to do, and I'll show you how to do that. So moving into the wiring throughout the van, I used 12 gauge wire, stranded wire throughout the whole van. And the reason why I did that was basically because I picked my largest appliance that had the biggest load, which was my fridge, and that required 12 gauge wire. And I went with that throughout because I thought that was the safest option. I could have done different gauge wire for the lights and some other of the appliances, but 12 gauge wire just seemed like a safe bet for me, and I was a little unaware of how it all worked, so that's why I went with 12 gauge wire. So I have 12 gauge wire run throughout. I have these four lights on their own switch, which is what this wire is for right here, and that switch will be in a cabinet which is going here. So I have it running to the dimmer switch, and then from the dimmer switch I have it going to my fuse box. So that'll be able to control these lights. And then these two are on their own, which the switch is right here, so I can turn them on and off. How to get close up to that? It's cool like that. And then I can also dim them. So I have those lights, and then I have two more little like reading lights that are going in the back there. Those are what the wires are for. I'll probably put them on when I'm finishing up with the van. Fridge up, I cut the cigarette plug off and just crimped my 12 gauge wire to the wire it came with, and it works great. I've had it in here for a little bit now and it works great. So between 200 watts of solar and 200 amp hour batteries, I believe I'll be able to run my fridge, my lights, charge my phone, my computer, run my heater occasionally, no problem. I did leave plenty of space to add another solar panel and another battery if I think it's necessary. So that was something I took into consideration. Yeah, I hope that this was informative. I tried to talk about a lot of things that I couldn't find in videos and online that were just straightforward, somebody basically telling me what they did and how they did it and why. So that's what I tried to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for where I'm going next. I'm new to YouTube, so editing and these videos is all a learning curve for me. I appreciate the support and everybody who's watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks. Bye.